Okay, Harv, thanks. We got the next case coming up now. Litigants ready to come on into the courtroom, so let's go back in and see what's ahead.
This is the plaintiff, John Murphy, general manager of Collegian Movers, a company run by college students. He claims the defendant and his wife were upset just because there was a 2-hour delay in moving them from Manhattan to Connecticut. So to appease his customers, he sent some men over the next day to unpack them, free of charge. Even so, the defendant stopped payment, and he's not about to let him get away with it. He's suing for $1,913 for moving fees. This is the defendant, Ronald Hook, and his wife, Leslie Singer. He says it was one of the most stressful days of their lives. First, the plaintiff's man showed up without packing boxes and returned 2 hours later with no idea how to pack. He and his wife ended up doing a lot of moving themselves on both ends. The last straw was finding an expensive vase in pieces and their clothes totally wrinkled. He's accused of trying to get a free move.
All parties, please raise your right hand.
And stay with us. We're going to be back in a minute to begin hearing testimony in the case of how not to move out of Manhattan.
One of the items that we had packed, this beautiful vase right here. Yes, it's got a chip on the back.
That's a big chip. and I only chuckled, not because it's not important, but only because he said a chip. It's a big chip.
Today at 5.
A surprise plea in last year's gruesome murder in Central Park. And the 15-year-old suspect speaks out in court.
And a whole school without heat in these freezing temperatures. What are bureaucrats doing to fix the problems in the city's crumbling schools? Then
I'm Ben Farnsworth. A New Jersey family wins a precedent-setting award against terrorism.
also, who got nominated for Daytime Emmy Awards? We'll have the list today on News Channel 4, live at 5, the Tri-State News Channel.
My parents have worked so hard all their lives, and now that they're retired, well, it's a shame that they can't enjoy the cash benefits of their life insurance policy right now.
I know. My father has cancer. I'm not sure we can pay all the expenses.
Have you called Kelco?
If you or a loved one are suffering from a life-threatening illness and need money now, call Kelco for free information at 1-800-775-3167 and turn your life insurance policy into cash right now.
Now that's a dog.
A sandwich just isn't a sandwich without the tangy zip of Miracle Whip.
You burglars never learn.
Scout son of Alamo, I thought they was on vacation.
But I, Alarmo, take no days off.
Jeez, I thought my house was asleep.
Well, I never sleep.
Coleman's home security system is state-of-the-art, and it's toll-free.
Call 1-800-ALARM-ME.
Jeez, please don't call 1-800-ALARM-ME.
Sing the song, boys.
Coleman, shield your home, and they do it free.
Alarmo lives to protect your home and family. Call 1-800-ALARM-ME now.
Free!
To stay in shape, you work your tail off. But fitness is more than just exercise. It's nutrition, which is why Petco is where the pets go. For Iams, a brand of nutrition you can't get at a supermarket. Now get 2 24-ounce boxes of Iams biscuits free when you buy a 40-pound bag of Iams dog food. We've got the nutrition. The rest is up to you. Petco, where the pets go.
And we're back at People's Court. Here's our second case today, how not to move out of Manhattan. In this case, the plaintiff says he doesn't understand what the big deal is, so the move took 14 hours instead of 12. Besides, if the defendant's hideous vase, as they call it, with a little chip in it, meant so much to them, why didn't they fill out an insurance claim form? That's at the heart of his case. Here's the defendant who says he got more attitude than help from those movers. They were so inept, he says, the guys the plaintiff sent over the next day even commented on what a terrible job the movers had done. And so at the heart of this, will the mover get his money or will the defendants get satisfaction? Here's the case. Let's watch.
And come to order.
Mr. Murphy, you apparently did some moving work for the defendant. Tell me about it.
All right. They hired us to move an apartment pack and move an apartment from New York City to Westport, Connecticut. The movers showed up in the morning, 10 o'clock. They did not have packing materials with them. Mrs. Singer called us, Mrs. Hook called us, upset, understandably, that they didn't have some packing materials. We said we'd get them out as soon as we could. We got them out within 2 hours from our warehouse. In the meantime, the movers didn't just sit there and wait for the packing materials to come. They moved pieces of furniture.
Not everything has to be in.
Yeah, they moved furniture out into the truck.
Yeah.
The move went as planned for the rest of the day. The next morning, Mrs. Hook called me, and said that she was unhappy. Her house was in a chaotic state, boxes everywhere, which is kind of what happens when you do move. You do have boxes in every room. She said she was considering stopping payment on her check.
What was the amount?
$1,913. I've been in situations where I had to collect money from people before. It's not the easiest thing in the world, so I decided to make a concession, especially because we didn't have the packing materials when we first got there. I told her we'd send a couple of guys over to help her unpack and put her house back in some order for her. Asked her if that would make her happy. She said yes. So we did. The guys went out there. They worked for her for a little while.
How many hours?
3.5 hours.
Any charge?
No charge. Ordinarily, we charge $75 per hour for 2 men. They did the unpacking. She sent them home with a damaged vase. One of the items that we had packed, this beautiful vase right here.
Has a damage in it?
Yes, it's got a chip on the back.
That's a big chip. I only chuckled, not because it's not important, but only because he said a chip. It's a big chip. Yeah, go ahead.
That was the extent of the damage that she had indicated to the movers who were there.
Okay, let me turn to the defendant and find out why they didn't pay. Who wants to testify first? You, ma'am?
No.
Take him?
You'll hear from
Okay.
me.
Well, whatever you say.
Due time.
Tell me.
The time that they were supposed to show up for the move was not right. They were supposed to come earlier, and they were late.
What time were they supposed to come?
I believe it was like 8:30.
What time did they come?
They didn't really get there till 10.
Till 10. Okay.
But we had moved with Collegian before. So we were happy with the moves we'd had before. We thought we'd get the same situation going out this time. They were late coming in, but when they showed up, the men who showed up weren't ready to pack at all. It said on our sheet, pack and move. They had no packing materials, and the people that were there...
So when they got there at 10 o'clock, an hour and a half past the time they were supposed to, they didn't have the packing materials.
Right.
Okay.
So that put us even farther behind getting the whole move started, just getting out of the city.
When did they actually start?
Like I said, they started right then. Well, no, they didn't start right then because we called them, and they went back and forth. One of the men who was even there to do the move wasn't going to do the move.
So let me just get something straight. At 10 o'clock, they started to load onto the truck, but they not at all?
Not immediately, because they were trying to work out the whole situation of whether they were going to do the move or not, because they weren't packers, and they had no material.
Is there a bill of lading here?
Yes, there is.
May I see it? Let me just take a look at the bill of lading. Does that provide the time when it started? Okay. It says start time, 10 o'clock, and the customer's initials are there. Finish time, 10 o'clock, and the customer's initials are there. Job hours, 12 hours. Travel time, 2. Total hours, 14. And then it gives the charges and the breakdown. You want to take a look at that and see if those are your initials?
I certainly
Yeah,
Those are your initials?
Yes.
Okay. They did start at 10. They ultimately came with packing boxes or not?
They did show up later with more materials, and a man who packed for the living, that's all he does is pack, showed up later.
To do about 5 things, 2 pieces of art and things that were important. And
so they did have someone who was a specialist in packing?
Yes, he packed that vase, and he packed some of the other pieces that also ripped backs of paintings.
So what you're saying is they were not packed well?
Right.
Well, let me ask this. Have you filed an insurance claim?
To be honest with you, I don't think we knew going in that we should have up front.
Now, do you have a procedure for filing?
Yes.
Is it in this bill of lading or some contract?
On the back of the bill of lading.
Okay. Why don't you read it? Give it to the plaintiff. Read the clause that relates to that. Go
I'm
ahead.
actually the claims manager at Collegian. It says, as a condition precedent to recovery, claims must be filed in writing with the receiving or delivering carrier or a carrier issuing this bill of lading or carrier in possession of the property when the loss, damage, injury, or delay occurred within 30 days after the delivery of the property.
Okay. What is the date of the move?
July 17th of this year.
Did you file? You did not file.
We did not, I didn't feel that this vase or the dry cleaning, because they smashed all my suits and business suits into a box when they ran out of wardrobes, was worthy of dealing with my insurance company. We also have two...
No. We're not talking now about your insurance company. We're talking about a claim against the mover. Did you file a written statement with the mover listing your damage?
No, we...
did not.
The whole thing that started out was that they said to us, pack and move completed within a reasonable amount of time during that day.
Right.
And it started out as going to be just 2 men sent over, and in my conversations back and forth with their office, they increased to 3, and then finally 4 people for a 2-bedroom apartment in the city to pack and move.
Now, did you give them an earlier estimate that was less than what you're billing them for?
No. Well,
so when they say 4 men, did you originally quote 2 men?
I wasn't the original estimator. Oftentimes, when they talk to people, try to get a feel of what the apartment's like. If it was just a move, we would say maybe 2 men, 3 men.
So this is a general estimate on the phone?
Correct. We did not go visit them to take a look at everything.
Do you know, can you tell from your bill of lading how many men actually were on the job here?
4 men on the bottom left-hand
4
corner.
men. And that's what they're billed for, is that it?
Yes, sir.
A 4-man job?
Yes, sir.
Does that also have an initial? Show me where the 4 men are listed.
Right down the bottom left there.
Right here?
These are the 4 men.
Okay.
I see. Oh, the 4 names are listed there. Now, you mentioned that you sent men over the next day. Did he?
Yes.
After we complained bitterly about the state of our house and the terrible disruption of our lives that was left by this mess.
And how many?
Hysterical.
Okay. The check was stopped.
Right.
I now will have to consider whether there is a basis for damages. I'm going to take a short recess, and I'll be back.
Well, the moves are being made in favor of the plaintiffs so far, as you can see on our live website poll. They've been leading throughout, in fact, so they seem to be making their point. But who's going to win it? Will Judge Koch judge for the plaintiff or the defendant? Verdict in just a moment. Stay with us.
If you would like free tickets to be part of our courtroom audience, call 212-634-7418.